Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are in the world, and welcome to The Infinite Way, where spirituality meets humanity. I'm your host, Dr. Enolia, and today our guest is Jason Teichner, a certified holistic health practitioner, nutritionist, and hypnotherapist, and the founder of Natural Healing with Jason T LLC. Jason has been in practice since 2003, helping clients heal naturally by identifying and addressing the root causes of illnesses rather than just treating the symptoms. Through his signature program, 8 Weeks to Healing, he offers personalized sessions and customized plans for people, often those who have tried multiple doctors and practitioners without lasting relief. But what makes Jason's approach really, really unique is not only his knowledge, but also his personal journey. For more than 2 decades ago, he underwent chemotherapy and radiation for Hodgkin's lymphoma. The years that followed brought numerous health challenges, and he was forced to discover how to heal himself with little outside help. That experience gave him both the compassion and the insight to now guide others through their own healing journeys. And we welcome you, Jason.
Thank you, Dr. Enolia. I really appreciate that. That was just an excellent, thorough introduction. That was great. Couldn't have said it better myself.
We wanted to make sure that we honored you because when you go through a health journey like that and you come out on the other side, it is so life changing. And I know that because I experienced a life changing moment in my life also with health challenges. And I think that we all encounter something that we either feel defeated by or that we rise to the occasion. So I really want to start this with the fact that you went on a journey, and that journey literally brought you to this moment. So, talk to us a little bit about your beginnings and just how you found your spiritual path, and then maybe the turns and twists that life gave you for the journey that you went on.
Yeah, definitely. So back at the end of the year 2000, I was diagnosed with Hodgkin's lymphoma. And so it is a type of lymphatic cancer for those out there that don't know what that is. And very prevalent in the young population. Usually people get it either in their 20s or they'll get it later on in life, 60s and 70s. In the middle is when people of those years is when people usually get non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, whereas Hodgkin's is comes at, usually in the 20s or later on in life, like 60s and 70s. So I I was studying nutrition at the time, but I didn't know nearly enough to heal myself on my own with doing natural means. So, of course, I went with what my oncologist at the time said and chemotherapy, radiation. So I did, yeah,
And
go
I'm
ahead.
going to pause you because I want people to understand what lymphoma is. And a lot of people
Okay.
may not know what lymphoma is. And I know that you're talking about the lymph nodes, but in what's actually happening to the lymph nodes?
Yeah, so with the lymph nodes, what's happening is the immune system is breaking down. So the lymphatic system is responsible not for just detoxifying the body, the entire body, but it's also responsible for the white blood cells. And so it goes along with your helping to produce white blood cells, which starts in the thymus gland. And so when you have your immune system that breaks down, then your lymphatic system, gets taxed. And stress also has a lot to do with it. Anxiety, pent up anger, pent up emotion, that also has a lot to do with lymphoma. And this has been found time and time again, not just by the natural healing community, but even the conventional medicine community agrees with this. And so basically, I had a lot of things going on. Part of it was I was not taking care of myself. I was in my 20s. I thought I was immortal, right? And so basically, a quick story is I was working with children at that moment, at that time, and I was running a summer camp at that time, and I had never really slept well at that time. And so what I was doing was after work every day, I was going in early, I was getting home late and from the camp. And so I would go to Starbucks, one of the worst places you can go with all the chemicals they put in their coffee. And I was getting first, I was getting the tall size, which is the 12 ounce. Then that wasn't doing it for me. So I was getting the 16 ounce. Then that
Wow.
wasn't doing it for me. So then I was getting the venti, which was the 20 ounce, so tall grande venti. And so just to get that same energy, because I was exhausted after work, and I was doing that on a daily basis. And I was also, drinking alcohol. I was also, not eating the right foods and all of that. And then I was thinking, what am I going to do with my life? I had been in the childcare field for quite a while, and I said, you know what, I want to do something else. I don't know what it is. So then I decided, you know what, I'm going to go to school for nutrition. And so I was planning to quit the job right after the next school year started, because I started out the next school year as a child care counselor, senior child care counselor. And
Mhm.
so what happened was is that as those months went on, I started feeling worse and worse, and I didn't know what was going on. I was sicker. I was more tired. And I said, there's something not right here, because I had never felt like this before, and it was progressing. And so I think it was probably in November of that year, because the school year started then in September. And by November, I had seen my doctor, probably at least 5 times for this. And he said, oh, you're fine. Your blood works normal. You're fine. And then one day he said, let's take a chest x-ray. I said, okay. Takes a chest x-ray, finds this huge mass in my chest, and he said, yeah, there's a mass in your chest. We can't really tell what it is exactly because it's an X-ray, but I'm gonna send you for a CAT scan and then a PET scan. And so, and I said, well, what do you think is going on? He says, lymphoma. I said, okay. So so then I did the other tests and then the biopsy and everything. And then, yeah, so December of 2000 is when I was finally diagnosed with Hodgkin's lymphoma.
So I'm going to say when you said lymphoma, and it's my understanding that whenever we have a problem with our lymph nodes, they typically get inflamed. And the
Yes.
inflammation, what happens is that they tend to protrude and protrude, and then some people get lymphoma, and it shows externally. Like it'll show under the arms, it'll show
Yes.
out of the neck, it'll show behind the knees. Those Roy's, and you're saying that your mass was just dead center in your chest internally, so it wasn't showing externally for you to be able to address, correct?
You know what? I'm glad you mentioned that, because I did forget the final time I went to the doctor that prompted him to do the chest x-ray. That is when I had a growth in my neck. So I appreciate you bringing that up, and it sounds like you know where all the lymph nodes are. That's great.
Well, I'm going to tell you because, and I'm going to wait until you do it, but I actually got diagnosed with lymph node issues also, and so
Oh,
that's why I know exactly what you're talking about. So go ahead.
yes, yes, that's right. You did tell me that. Yeah, so yeah, I had this knot in my neck, and that's what prompted the doctor to do the chest x-ray. So it did show up in the neck, but it was of course growing before I knew it was there, and then of course the mass in the chest was growing before I knew it there. And so finally, when I ended up doing the PET scan, when I saw the oncologist, he said, "You know what? We caught this just in time. Your mass in the chest, it's called a mediastinal mass. It was about 10 centimeters, and he said that the spot that it was in, if it had grown any more, then it would started to crush one of my lungs. So they caught it just in time, and then yeah, and then started chemo pretty much right away after that in January of 2021, and went through chemo till March, and then I went through radiation during the month of March. And back then they had their protocol. Now they say with Hodgkin's, if it's stage two, which mine was stage two. So stage three is when it starts to go below the abdomen, and then stage four is the bone marrow. So I was in stage two, so it meant that it was still above the abdomen because we have lymph nodes below our abdomen, as you know too. And like you said, the back of the knees, there's lymph nodes. So luckily, it hadn't gotten to that point yet. And so now for that, what they're doing is they're just doing chemo and they're finding that radiation is pointless. But back then they did the chemo to get rid of it, and then the radiation just to make sure it was gone pretty much. And so I went through that, and then I noticed a couple years later, well, first of all, I noticed a huge emotional shift about 8 weeks into my treatment to where I was finally caught up with me that I was facing death, right? And so couldn't sleep, couldn't leave the house for, about 6 months. I mean, not literally couldn't sleep, but was getting a couple hours a night for about 6 months. Could barely leave the house. I was afraid to leave the house. I was afraid to sleep. I was afraid to die, all this stuff. So some people call that chemo brain, where it's the after effects and cause the emotional part. So basically, then I finally got a little bit better from the emotional part. But once I noticed that happening, then I started to get all these physical symptoms. I was tired all the time, could barely leave the house due to the physical fatigue, and I couldn't eat 2 bites of food, more than 2 bites of food, without getting extremely sick. So I thought, what is going on here? And so went to doctor after doctor after doctor. They're like, your blood work's fine, you're fine. Your blood work's fine, you're fine. So what I finally discovered after a few years of research was that my cells, the DNA in my cells, were so damaged from the chemo that they weren't repairing properly. My cells weren't repairing properly, and so basically the DNA was that damaged, and that's why I was getting all of these symptoms, and that's why I was so sensitive to everything. So then I had to go on my own journey, as you mentioned, on figuring out, how to heal it on my own. I had one doctor in that time say, it just sounds like your cells are toxic and not repairing properly. And I said, oh, okay, what do I do about it? Oh, I don't know. I'm just a medical doctor. So so then
Unbelievable.
yeah. So conventional medicine doesn't have an answer for toxicity, right, in the body and DNA damage. And so that's what I discovered after years of research, that basically I could not metabolize anything, whether it was environmental, whether it was food, whatever it was. And so toxins were building and building and building and building and building in my body because my cells weren't able to dissipate the toxins, right? Get rid of the toxins. And so then I had to discover on my own how to repair cellular DNA, how to get rid of these toxins in my body at the same time. And so finally, after trial and error, but with a bunch of stuff, different ways of eating, different types of supplements, I was finally able to figure it out. And now I'm just learning more and more and more every day, all the time. And I'm partnering with the best of the best as far as companies that have the supplements that actually work and that aren't toxic, that don't have the binders in them like most supplements do. And so now I'm kind of at the point where I pretty much understand the source of all illness, and more than 9 times out of 10, it's toxicity. And part of what I do to help the client is I help determine by their symptoms, and if they've been diagnosed with anything or not doesn't really matter because we're talking about the source. It's up to me to figure out, which toxins are, my clients have. Sometimes I'll send them for testing, sometimes I won't. I mean, usually I just know by their symptoms what toxins that they have, and I can let them know how to detoxify themselves from that so that their DNA, their cells can repair. And it shows up in a million, toxicity shows up in a million different ways, as you know. It shows up in inflammation, it shows up in autoimmune disease, it shows up in almost every disease you can imagine has a toxicity component to it. And so we detoxify, it gets rid of the inflammation, It helps balance the pH. A lot of people know about the acid alkaline balance. And so that happens automatically when you detoxify. And so I had discovered that all on my own. And since then, I've helped hundreds of clients with all types of diagnoses, and even people that haven't been diagnosed with anything, but they're just saying, I'm having major digestive problems. I'm having liver issues. I'm having major fatigue. I have chronic fatigue syndrome. I have fibromyalgia. I have diabetes. Whatever the case may be, I can help them heal because I understand the source, what's causing it. And so I would be the biggest, I feel the biggest hypocrite on earth if I wasn't using this knowledge to help other people. I don't want
Right,
anyone to go through what I went through.
right.
That's my whole thing.
And I want to pause you there because there's a lot of things that you said that, I want to highlight and I want to amplify, right?
Mhm.
Because like it's your story, so you're navigating through your story and that's how you did it. But because I went through not nearly to the degree that you did, but a similar story in the respect that I found a lump in my neck and nobody was telling me what the heck the lump in my neck was, and that was just a sign of the
Mhm.
inflammation. And for me, the inflammation was on the left side, and it was mainly my neck and behind my knee on my left side, and it was causing me pain to walk on one side. So it was caught very early, and 8 months of strict dietary eating, really that, and I went the acupuncture route, in which what they did is they did cupping, which did the job of my lymph nodes
Yes.
physically. Okay, and so physically, until my lymph nodes were healed enough to be able to do its own job, it was being done for them. And so for me, it was, all along the back and behind the legs, and it twice a week, every week, like clockwork,
Mhm.
didn't miss a beat. Okay.
Yeah.
And so what I want to amplify and emphasize is what your specialty is, because it was eating that saved my life. It was, yes, the detoxing and everything, and the putting the body in the solid state that it can be so that it can regenerate itself. But in regenerating itself and being able to detoxify and being able to do all of those things, I can't emphasize what we ingest means everything. And we eat and we're going, oh, I'm eating healthy, but my rule had to be there needs to be food in my food. No, absolutely not one processed piece of food could go in this body in order to stop preventing my body from being its full regenerative helping itself. So I want you to really tell me what was your eating habits and your diet change in order to help you through that journey, and how did that amplify to you to know that that is one of the main things that people need to have for eating, because I know that that's your specialty.
Yeah, definitely. So first let me say that everybody has a different metabolic type, right? And
Yeah.
so what that means is that there's no such thing as a one size fits all diet.
Right.
There's so many people on YouTube, call them, you who's on YouTube, that promote um that yahoos, whatever you want to call them, that promote the one size fits all diet, whether they say keto, whether they say paleo, whether they say vegan, whatever the case may be. No such thing as a one size fits all diet. If you want to go to metabolictypingonline.com, you can actually take a little quiz to find out your metabolic type, and that'll tell you which diet is going to be best for you specifically. Blood type, eat right for your type. That blood type definitely has something to do with it. Metabolic type is like blood type on steroids, basically. It's don't take steroids, by the way. But yeah, that'll give you a even more comprehensive plan of what you should be eating. So for me, it was, just a little bit of meat here and there, which of course wasn't processed, and Uh, the if it was beef was grass fed, if it was chicken hormone antibiotic free, all that kind of stuff. But everybody's a little different. And what I found was when I was trying to heal, I didn't want to eat too much meat because that was harder to digest. And I was having major digestive issues. And so I would say I did mostly a plant-based diet. And that's kind of what healed me was mostly a plant-based diet. Every once in a while, I felt like I needed, more protein than just plants could provide. So I would do that. But meat once in a while, but not very often. And so that I mean that's what helped me and what I had. But everybody's different. So I would basically in my clients I figure out what the best eating plan is for that particular person. And so that's kind of how I do it with eating plans. But you're right when you say that, there's no eating plan that should ever have anything processed. It should all be real, 100% food. There should be nothing processed. And nowadays, you're hearing that first you were hearing sugar was the real culprit, which it is if it's refined. Raw honey, raw agave, raw sugar, especially if it's organic, is perfectly fine. I mean that's what you get in fruit, right? But refined sugar, of course, is the problem because it loses all of its enzymes, and that's true with any refined food, is it loses all of its enzymes.
Right.
And when you have processed food, your body doesn't know what to do with it, right? It's chemicals, and so it builds up in your system, and then eventually, usually causes autoimmune disease. That's processed food, autoimmune, directly related. So, and nowadays you're hearing that, seed oils are also a real culprit, which they are because they're refined and they're heated, which means they're heated. So if you have like the extra virgin olive oil or virgin coconut oil, virgin palm fruit, not palm kernel, but palm fruit. There's a difference. Palm fruit oil, if it's virgin, extra virgin, unrefined, preferably cold pressed, at the very least expeller pressed. Cold pressed just means it's done at a little bit lower temperature than expeller pressed. Then you're good. But almost every snack you see has the refined seed oils in it, and that is a huge, 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 huge problem. It damages the DNA. Not only damages the DNA of your cells, it actually makes your cells change shape. They're supposed to be
Mm,
round, right? It makes
yes.
them look all kinds of crazy shapes. They've shown it under a microscope. And that it directly contributes to cancer, many types of cancer. So, and not to mention it destroys your digestive system. So yeah, everything that is pure whole food is the most important thing. And if you're gonna do meat, if that's part of the diet that's right for you specifically, then you would do it, no hormones, no antibiotics. And if it's beef, it would be the grass-fed, grass-finished in addition to that. Because I mean animals aren't meant to eat grains just like
Right.
we're not meant to eat grains. There's a big, we're really not meant to eat grains. Now every once in a while, it's not going to kill you, but and then of course, you have barley, rye, and wheat, which are the three grains that have gluten in it. There's a lot of people that are gluten intolerant, but it's actually not gluten intolerance at the core. It's actually GMO intolerance, genetically modified organism. Because if
Mm,
you go to Europe and you eat the same food that has gluten probably won't get sick because
okay.
they don't allow any of the GMOs in there. So organic here does not mean what organic means in Europe.
Okay.
Lot stricter in Europe, for example, than in the US. Organic in the US is not truly organic, unfortunately. It's a company that's had enough money to pay for the seal, basically. Um, Not that organic is not better than unorganic. It is. They do have certain standards they have to follow especially with pesticides, but there's no standard for metals, heavy metals. Organic
Right.
has nothing to do with heavy metals. So a lot
Mhm.
of the soil, of course, has heavy metals like lead and cadmium and arsenic, and then you get mercury from your water as well as
Yeah.
lead and fluoride, and so organic only has to do with herbicides and pesticides. So that means organic is better than unorganic, but it doesn't cover everything. So
Right.
that's the problem. And so, and so it's got to be pure, whole food, organic, nothing processed, like you said, nothing refined. So that's the most important thing, which whatever eating plan you do that's best for your metabolic type, your blood type, and your metabolic type, that's what you want to make sure it's always 100% whole food, definitely.
Yeah. So, in order for us to overcome anything, it's not just a matter of mind and body, but it's also spirit, you
Yeah.
know? And so here you are on this journey, you're fighting for your life. And how does spirit play a role in grabbing that totality of coming full circle to self and being able to lift yourself up the way that you did?
Definitely. The first thing I'll say to me, ch changing how you eat and the supplements that you take, like the things that I could advise and do advise my clients on, that is temporary healing. Spirituality is permanent healing. That's how I look at it. So if you don't handle the emotional part, the spiritual part, then you're just going to get sick again. And
Okay.
that's why I really enjoy, Dr. Nolia, what you do, because spirituality, once you have that down, you probably will not get sick again. And if you do, it's going to be very short-lived because you already have the mentality to think the illness out of your mind and out of your body. So, and that kind of brings me to this. This all goes with mental health as well as physical health. They're connected, right? So, our neurotransmitters, I mean, most of our neurotransmitters are in our digestive system. We think of neurotransmitters in the brain, right? Most of them are in the digestive system. So there's that gut-brain connection that a lot of people know about. And it's really true, especially serotonin. Most of your serotonin is your digestive system. So if you're depressed, it's probably your digestive system that's out of whack, not your brain, you know.
Right, right,
Just
right.
saying. So definitely all connected. Once you have the spirituality down, which, a lot of people are, everybody is going to be in a different part of their journey on that. And but once you really have that down to where you have that knowing rather than just the belief. For me, it's God. For other people, it's other things, but for me, it's God. Once you have the knowing instead of just the belief, huge difference between belief or faith, because faith is, without seeing it, between faith and knowing, huge difference between those two things. Once you have the knowing, then you can create, manifest, whatever you want to call it, anything in your life that you envision.
So I'm going to actually ask us to go there, and I'll start with myself first. So when the doctor pulled me aside, and I had finally, first I went to a neurosurgeon. Neurosurgeon's like, I don't know what that is. Let's get it ultrasound, and I go
Yeah.
and get an ultrasound, and it pissed me off because I couldn't even get back in to see the same doctor, and I was like, the heck with you. So I found another doctor, and I had to wait so long. I had to wait like 3 months to get back into the doctor after having an ultrasound. So they said, well, just do another ultrasound right before you come back in, and we'll see if it's grown or if it's subsided or if it's getting smaller. And, likelihood it's going to get smaller, right? So I waited 3 months, and my ultrasound showed that it was growing. And, the neurologist calls me in the office. He doesn't ask me who I am, he doesn't do anything except to say, "Oh, I can cut it out your neck." And I'm like, I don't even know what it is. I was so angry. He had made me so angry at that moment. So finally, I understood it to be my lymph node. Finally, right? And I left. I dismissed him because it was just like, you don't even know who I am. You don't know anything about me. Blah blah blah. I had one of those experiences. So a friend of mine recommended me to Chinese medicine doctor, and her name's Dr. Rui Wong, and she, spent time with me. And right off the bat, that was better. I had a 2 hour consultation. I had a 23-page intake sheet to find out who I was so that that 2 hour consultation could go good. And she sat down with me and she's like, okay, if I take you, you know, as a patient, you have to promise me that you're going to show up twice a week. And, there are going to be some things you're going to have to promise me. And I'm like, okay, fine, right? So I waited a couple of days. She came back. She's like, okay, you have to come in twice a week. You have to have food in your food. You have to change your diet, and you have to strengthen your kidneys, liver, and adrenals. And I'm like, okay, I can do that. And by the way, I want to go to a 100-mile walk to Africa in 8 months. Can you tell me, can this be done by the time it's there? And she looks at me like I'm insane. And she goes, I don't think you understand how sick you are. I said, yeah, I understand. I said, but like I said, I'm going to go on a 100-mile walk in Africa, and in 8 months, can we have this wrapped up? And she's like, you're not going anywhere. I said, oh, yes, I am. And she's like, oh, no, you're not. And I'm like, oh, yes, I am. And I want you to understand, and I'm sharing the story for our audience to say that was the spirituality. That was the
Yeah.
piece that says, I do not see myself sick, and you're not going to put me in this box. Nobody's going to put me in this box, and nobody's going to label me and tell me I can't get out of the box, right? I said, I'll
Yeah.
make you a deal. A month before I'm supposed to go, if you think I still can't go, I won't go, but I'm going. And, for me, I had internal inflammation that couldn't be seen. And so everything on my left side hurt. And so when I walked, I was in pain. But I averaged walking 4 or 5 miles every other day because I was gonna. There's a walking safari, 100-mile walk. So I had to get in practice of walking. So I'm just walking through the pain, right? And that's the spirituality piece. That was the I will transcend what the pain is telling me I can do.
Yeah.
And you know, it had to be food in my food. How many of us know that we're supposed to be eating right? Eating right. And we go, oh, I'm too old for this. I have to have what I want to have. Or, oh, you only live once. And we convince ourselves, we manipulate our own behaviors to not having the self discipline when we know good and well it could kill us. And that was my spirituality, that piece that basically said, you can and you will tell your body what it needs to have to feel better. And when your body is dictated to of what it feels better, then it's going to reward you back by regenerating and everything else, and doing better and functioning better, right? So
Yeah.
again, that mind, body, spirit. In spirits, like, you have to tell the body what it needs, feed the body what it needs, and she will reward you, right? So
Definitely.
that, and then the strengthening of the kidneys and adrenals and liver. I went to a friend of mine. She was an herbalist, and she gave me the herbs, the physical herbs, and I took this herb of ashwagandha and this herb of this and this herb of that, and I put it in a teapot and I boiled it, and I got the juices from it, and I drank it in a tea, and blah 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 blah, and I did that X amount of times a week, and so those disciplines and that spirituality, that basically, because I've always heard that any miraculous medical story was, one, you didn't accept the symptoms as your label, and you just
Yeah.
basically said, I will transcend this label.
Yeah.
You can't
Absolutely.
keep me in that box. So to me, those are the inspiring pieces and moments that people need to hear. And you have one of those. Will you share us what it was for you?
Yeah. So basically, it starts with it starts with when I was first diagnosed with Hodgkin's, right? Um, where was I, was I kind of scared I was going to die at the time? Yeah. The mental part, as I kind of mentioned, for whatever reason, my brain didn't do that weird shift until 8 weeks into the treatment. But right after I got diagnosed, my first my first thought was, oh crap, and my second thought was, I'm meant to heal from this. So that was the spirituality part. I don't know where it came from at the time. I didn't, follow God at all or anything, really. spirituality wise, but I just had this knowing that just said to me, this voice that just said to me, you're meant to have this and you're meant to get over it. And that was the first thing I remember when I was diagnosed, is that's what I said in my head. And my father at the time, he said, this was when I was still back living in LA, where I was born and raised. He he said, do you want to see a therapist? And I said, no, because I had that thought in my head that came and said, you're supposed to get this, you're supposed to get over it. So, okay. And I'm still not sure why my brain did that shift 8 weeks, but into the treatment. But up until then, I just had that mindset. I just had that mindset. I'm gonna get over this. I'm supposed to get over this. So I really wasn't scared. I was more just not, I just didn't like feeling well with the chemo and everything. But I had that inner knowing that I was gonna, that this, even though I was doing the traditional treatment, that it was gonna cure me, which it did. Um and so that's kind of that's when it kind of first started. Then what I did was what helped me get over that brain shift, which started about 8 weeks in, and it lasted about 6 months, where I had trouble sleeping, afraid to die all the time, leave the house. That lasted about 6 months. Probably about 3 or 4, probably 4 months into it, is when I started studying spirituality. I said, you know what? It's time to start studying spirituality, because that's the only thing that's going to get me over this mental crap that I'm going through right now. So I started with, whether you love or hate her, at the time this was what I was presented. This was Sylvia Brown. And so I started with her, and then I went on this whole journey of what happens when we die. And looking at different viewpoints, what happens when we die, all, looking at all near death experiences people have had, all this kind of stuff, where they all tell a very similar story, right? And so I looked at, and then supposed, whether I thought they were real, or, well, I thought they were real at the time, which is why I kept studying. But psychic mediums, where told you, okay, this is what happens when you die, and all this other stuff. And that gave me a ton of comfort at the time. And that's what really helped me get over the mental part of that, when my
Mm.
brain did that shift over the next couple months. And I did hypnotherapy as well, which now I'm a certified hypnotherapist, which is why I believe in it so much. I also went to a hypnotherapist, as well, that really helped me with getting over the mental part a lot quicker than I would have otherwise done. Yeah, he was very good. His name was Dr. James Walton. He was in the LA area. Um, and yeah, he was, I mean, he was really good. Either he was really good, or I was really willing to accept it, or a combination of the both.
Yeah.
Um, but that, with the study of spirituality, and he just happened have done his dissertation. He was a doctor in psychology. He happened to have done his dissertation in near-death experiences.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And he says, you know what? He says, let me tell you something, what you're going through. I did my dissertation in near-death experience. I'm like, oh wow, this is in alignment, right? And so with all that combination, within a couple months, I was a lot better in the mental part. And so that's kind of what subsided. So basically, then later on, I kind of discovered some of the new age stuff God isn't so happy about. It just kind of, that's a whole other conversation. But there's a place for it, but not to that extreme, because God says you're supposed to seek him. But there's also a place for it if the gift is given to you by God, then obviously that's okay, right? Not from the other side, we'll call it the devil, demons. But which people can, if they're not careful, they can get into too, when they go down this rabbit hole. But in any event, so eventually it transitioned into God, with some of this still going on, the spirituality part, right? That I thought was of God. So whenever I see anybody for any kind of spirituality, thing, I'd say, I always ask them, where does your gift come from? And they have to say God, because and you can kind of tell by looking at somebody, right, whether they're pure or not. You can get their energy, whether they're pure and whether what they're doing is really coming from the right place.
Yeah.
If they're like, oh yeah, I can heal you spiritually, but they're like, they just have seem like they have demons coming out of them or something, then it's not coming. It's been given to them by demons, because demons can give you those gifts too, right?
Yeah.
So it's only going to be temporary if you heal, right? So I took a lot of years developing all of that and researching all of that and making sure that everything I was doing was pure. Except at first I had no idea, because I had never even thought about spirituality or God or anything. So I just grabbed whatever was coming my way. Then later on I kind of realized what the difference was. Um, but yeah, now I'm pretty good at being able to tell, just like you can. I can, usually read people's energy. I can figure out whether they're inherently, where their gifts are coming from, inherently good, if they're coming from inherently good or bad. And so, but yeah, it's taken me a lot of years, and that's another thing that I love to share with people that that come to me, or anybody really, is the spiritual side, because that's, like I said before, I mean, I feel that's the permanent healing part of it. But you have to do it in the on the good side, right? Not on the other side.
Yes, yes, yes.
So yeah, there was a big, huge, 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 huge journey. But the discovery of spirituality and what happens when we die, combined with seeing this hypnotherapist who just happened to do his dissertation on NDEs, that combination, I mean, within a couple months, I was doing so much better mentally.
Wow. Wow. Now, did
Yeah.
you have an NDE?
I never had an NDE myself, no. I watch a lot of NDEs even still to this day on YouTube and things like that.
Okay.
People that have had NDEs, and you can tell if they're, well, at least I can tell if they're telling the truth or not usually. Um, but yeah, and there's a lot of good channels that have a lot of good people that are really telling the truth about them. And if you ever have doubts about where you go when you die, I mean, watch, besides obviously seeking God, watch NDEs, watch people that have had
Oh
NDEs
yeah,
and death
absolutely. No,
experiences.
I was just wondering, but yeah,
Yeah,
you're absolutely right, and I agree with you 100%. Um, you have a signature program.
I
You've
do.
gone through this journey. You've overcome. You've, connected with creators so closely. And I would dare say that maybe the program came through you even instead of from you because of
Yeah.
that journey. So talk to us about your signature program. Talk to us about what and how you like to work with clients.
Absolutely. And I'll say first that again, that comes from just feeling the absolute need to help people not go through what I had to go through.
Right,
Especially with all the conventional medicine doctors out there that will just tell you you're fine, or they'll tell you it's all in your head. That's what I got, right, from the conventional medicine doctors when I was going through the after effects of the chemo and all the DNA damage and the toxicity,
right,
just because it didn't show up in the blood work, right?
right.
So my mission is to help as many people as possible. And so what I've created is, my basic program is an 8 week to healing program. And
Hmm.
so if it's something minor, I can help you heal yourself. I don't heal anybody, obviously. People have to heal themselves. I'm just the guide, right? So if it's something mild, you can be 100% better in 8 weeks. If it's something more severe, it's going to take longer. But at least I've given you the foundation to where you literally do not need to see me after 8 weeks unless you still want to. And when I say see me, most of my clients I do over Zoom, their Zoom sessions. So
Right,
it includes 4 personalized Zoom sessions. And then, clients can email me anytime during that time if they have questions, concerns, anything like that. The first one is I start with a 30-minute free consultation, by the way, a free evaluation, 30-minute free evaluation. And then I will let them know, yes, I can help you, or no, I can't. But assuming I can help you, I then say, yes, I know exactly what's going on just by what you're telling me. I know the source because I've seen it before in so many other people. So I know the source of what's going on. I can definitely help you heal if you're willing, right? If you're ready to make your health a priority and you're sick and tired of being sick and tired and you don't want to get all these ridiculous million different answers from all these other practitioners, doctors. I will help you heal at the source if you're ready and willing. And so then I sign, and they say yes, and I say great. So I sign them up for my 8 week to healing program. And then the first session, completely individualized, customized plan specifically for them. That's going to include any combination of the right foods, the right supplements, toxicity methods, that kind of thing. And then I will refer them to other people if they want to even speed up their healing process, such as naturopaths that do IV therapy, like IV vitamin C, hydrogen peroxide, ozone, ultraviolet, all that kind of stuff, energy healing, infrared saunas for even a better detox. And I will refer them, acupuncture, you mentioned cupping, great for circulation. So chiropractic care, and I will give them the best resource in their area, or one of the best resources in their area, whatever part of the country they're in. I don't have as many resources outside the US, but if they're anywhere in the US, I can let them know in their area kind of what those best resources are. And that's optional, right? Um, I can still help them heal even just with what I do, just from the nutritional side. But if they want to speed up their healing process even more, if they can afford it, I will tell them where to go to do that as well for those other types of modalities that I don't personally do. And so, yeah, I take them through 8 weeks through 4 personalized Zoom sessions. And so I will say that there are other facilities, naturopathic doctors, people that supposedly, I will say, nobody does exactly what I do, but does something similar to what I do, right? Healing at the
Right.
source, toxicity, all that kind of stuff. I I will say that on average, I charge 3 to 4 times less than they do. And they have a longer program, usually 12 to 16 weeks, which I don't feel once a client has the foundation to heal, they don't need to see me anymore if they're doing that, what I
Right.
advise them
Right.
to do, right?
Right.
If they want to keep seeing me, sure, not a problem, but they don't have to. They don't have to go through 12 weeks, 16 weeks. They don't have to pay 3 to 4 times as much as what I charge when I have the same similar, I should say similar, not the same, but similar protocols than what they have. And we still detox slowly. Probably there's a question that's going to come up in people now is well, if I detox too fast, I'll get all these detoxification symptoms. I'll tell them how to detox so that they don't get those detoxification symptoms, the Herxheimer reaction, all that kind of stuff, because we do binders as well. So that it's not just throwing the toxin into their bloodstream, which is when you get those detox symptoms before
Right.
it leaves the body. So I have a very unique approach. Sometimes people can't detox until they open up the detox pathways because the detox materials or products aren't going to go anywhere, right? Because they have to open up the detox pathways first. So I'm very particular with each client, very, very customized, individualized. Um, so I'll say that, you know, you know what I what I charge without being egotistical about it is worth a lot more than what clients pay me because I actually know what I'm doing, right?
Right.
After they've been to doctor after doctor or other practitioners and they haven't had any relief and they come to me, I'm a lot of times their last resort. But I don't charge last resort prices,
I
but
see.
I do charge a premium and I do charge enough to where, I feel like it's worth I guess it's worth my time and energy to help them because I put a lot of energy into making sure that I have the protocol for them that's exactly fit to them for that person specifically.
Right,
I
that
put a lot of
customized
energy
approach.
into it. And
Yeah.
so I do, I've heard other people say I am, I am entitled to charge enough to make a living, which is what I feel, because what I do is very important. But I also don't believe in gouging people. I don't believe in
Right.
charging them 3 to 4 times the amount that I do, which I could easily do, but I will never. And people say, well, eventually when you get famous, whatever they want to call it, you should raise your prices. No, I'm not going to do that. I don't believe in gouging people. I believe in
Right.
making enough to make a good living, but not overcharging, because then it's all
Yes.
about the money. And I
Yes.
don't believe in that, but I am entitled to make enough to where I'm comfortable with the living that I'm making. So I'll say it like that if that makes sense.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
So, we're coming up on an hour. We could really, really enjoy talking so much more about this. But what I would love for you to share, you haven't said much about your hypnotherapy. Share a little bit with us
Mhm.
about your hypnotherapy, and then, then I would love for people to know how they can reach you.
Yeah, definitely. And hypnotherapy is interesting because I I cater hypnotherapy to the specific client as well. I don't have a specific time frame for the amount of sessions it's going to take for a person to heal from whatever mental emotional issue that they're having. And any hypnotherapist that tells you beforehand, oh yeah, it's going to take exactly this many sessions, run the other way as fast as you can. So that's why I don't talk about the hypnotherapy as much, because that's even more individualized than the nutrition, in that the amount of time is, well, I should say the amount of time is a lot more individualized in the hypnotherapy.
Right.
um, we're going to start with 3 sessions, right? And then we're going to reassess. We're going to see how you're doing. And you might have multiple things that you know of right away, or those 3 sessions may bring up even deeper issues you didn't know you had. And then
Mhm.
we're going to address those, right,
Right.
on top of it.
Right.
So, hypnotherapy, the time frame on that is extremely individualized. And so, but I mean, no matter what we're doing, we're definitely gonna need at least 3 sessions. I can tell you that much. But beyond that, I don't know. We got to see
Okay.
what comes up, right? We got to see what else comes up for you to work on. Or did we work on enough on what you came to me originally for? So that's going to be very highly, highly individualized. And what I do is I do block sessions. In other words, 3 at a time, so that that the client's not going to pay for each individual session, which ends up costing more. And if they say, well, can I see you for just one session? You can. You're not going to be completely, healed from whatever you came to me for that, to
Right.
see. You're gonna make a dent, but you're not gonna. And so, my job as the professional, right, is to be in charge of the session, let the client know, hey, this is what it's gonna take. I've been doing hypnotherapy for around the same amount of time I've been doing nutrition consultations, so about 22 years. And so at this point, and so definitely very good with hypnotherapy. I will say that, and most hypnotherapists will not tell you this, but I'm going to be brutally honest right now.
Okay.
This may lose me some clients for hypnotherapy, but I don't care. I'm going to be brutally honest. Does hypnotherapy work over Zoom? Absolutely. Does it work as well as if it's being done in person? Absolutely not.
Okay.
So, any hypnotherapist that tells you that the hypnotherapy that they do over Zoom, which I can do it over Zoom and it's going to help, but any hypnotherapist or hypnotist that says a Zoom hypnosis session is just as effective as an in person is lying to you. Run the other way as fast as you can.
Okay.
So that's where I'm gonna, I don't, I believe in giving clients the best experience I possibly can for them.
Mhm.
And I
Yes.
don't want to lie to anybody and say a Zoom hypnotherapy session is going to be just 100% as effective as an in person. It won't. Will it help? a lot, yes, but it's not going to be what an in-person session is. And so, I happen to travel a lot. I'm in, Reno right now, but, so if a person is, I'd rather, I will tell them that, a client, and then I'll let them make the decision on whether they still want to do. And I'll also suggest if they have something that's just so deep going on and so multifaceted going on, that I feel that they've got to see somebody in person, I will tell them that. If it's a
Okay.
little bit more surface stuff, if it's a little bit more medium, kind of like not extremely deeply rooted, then I'll say, yeah, some Zoom hypnosis sessions will definitely help you a lot. So I'll be completely honest with the client on that. And I can put it as part of the nutrition program. I would just extend it, right,
Mhm.
for as many hypnosis sessions as we need. But I would do a package. I would do both in one. It would just be extended. Or I could do hypnosis, just hypnosis, if they just want to deal with, mental, emotional stuff.
Yes.
Then I'll say, okay, let's start with 3 sessions, and then we'll go from there. I can give them an idea maybe on how many sessions I think it'll take. But then I also say to them, like I said, something else might come up, and then we got to do more work. So,
Right.
and that's their own brain doing it. That's not me. That's not me doing it, right? I'm all hypnosis is self-hypnosis. I'm just the guide.
Yes.
So people have to understand that hypnosis is not mind control. I can't make somebody do something they wouldn't normally do that's against their morals or ethics or their
Right.
values.
Right.
So, a lot of people think, oh, you're going to hypnotize me. They do this thing. I'm like, and like, no,
No.
this is not a controlled government facility where they just feed information in your brain like MK Ultra, if anybody knows what that is.
Yeah.
Well, it was the CIA, CIA
Right.
project.
Yeah.
But yeah, this kind of hypnosis is not like that at all. You're always in control of what you do with the suggestions that I give you, and of course it's all going to be good stuff for you that's going to benefit you. But hey, if yeah, you should trust it, but if you don't, hey, don't do it. But
Exactly.
so
Exactly.
yeah,
I just want to thank you. Thank you for sharing your expertise and your story and sharing your heart with us. It's just so important to have practitioners like yourself. Thank you for your contribution to humanity. Please let our audience know how they can reach you. And we will, whatever you say, will be included in the description below when the podcast goes out.
definitely. I appreciate that. So yeah, really the best way to get a hold of me, because my email address and my phone number are on my website.
Okay.
So I'm just going to give my website, and if they want to see, other podcasts I've done or YouTube videos, or I have a Facebook business page. I have a book on Amazon called Get Thin for Life,
Oh, we could have
which
talked a little bit about that. Okay.
yeah, so Get Thin for Life, it addresses, I wrote it in 2017. It addresses all of the underlying reasons why people are unable to lose weight, all the underlying health conditions as to why
Mm,
people aren't able to lose weight. And I address every single one of those health conditions in the book.
okay.
So, yeah, it's called Get Thin for Life. It's on Amazon. You could look at it, it doesn't always pop up on the title, because I'm not a bestseller. So, but it will pop under my name, Jason, Jason Teichner, Teichner, on Amazon. Get Thin for Life. It'll pop up that way. You can get it. It's like $10, I think. I don't know. But yeah, and then my website which is kind of usually the best way to get a hold of me, because it's got my, like I said, my email address and my phone number on there. Is going to be, it's heal, like you heal, HEAL, and three of them, heal.com.
Okay.
Yeah, heal.com. That's my website. It goes into a lot of the kind of how what I do, how I do it, basically what we've been talking about here, just in writing. And so yeah, that's the best way to get a hold of me. I'm always happy to do, like I said, it always starts with a free, no obligation, 30-minute evaluation, and then we kind of go from there.
Okay. Well, this is Jason Teichner. We want to thank you from The Infinite Way, where spirituality meets humanity podcast, for coming and being our guests.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Nolia. I really appreciate it. This has been a really great conversation.
Great conversation. And
Yeah.
you know what, to our audience, I hope you've been listening because there is somebody out there who needs this information, and there's somebody out there that you can share this with. So subscribe to us, share this episode to those who need it. There's somebody out there who's waiting to get this information. And if you like what you saw, join us again. So we're going to say take care for now and thank you. And I hope you have a beautiful and blessed day. And this has been another episode of The Infinite Way, where spirituality meets humanity. Take care. Bye.